The years I spent raising Alex are etched in every corner of my mind. From the moment I held him in my arms, the world outside faded and my heart filled with a duty that resonated with each beat. I remember those quiet mornings, sunlight streaming through the kitchen window, illuminating the chaos of toys strewn across the floor. I would brew rich coffee, inhaling the warmth as I prepared breakfast, pancakes stacked high and syrup glistening like liquid gold. The laughter of a child, innocent and full of life, rang out, bouncing off the walls like music. Alex was my joy, my little explorer, endlessly curious and eager. I recall the day he used his first words, "Mom," his tiny arms outstretched, and in that moment, the warmth of his embrace felt like a promise, a bond that made me feel invincible. I dedicated endless hours to shaping him, from assembling school projects late into the night to standing on the sidelines of soccer games, cheering as if my voice alone could propel him forward. I often think about those school days, waiting anxiously for the sound of the bus arriving, my heart racing in time with his footsteps as he bounded up the driveway. "How was school, sweetheart?" I would ask, eyes gleaming with pride as he recounted the day's adventures, from friendships blossoming to the trials of growing up. Each shared moment crafted a tapestry of love and devotion that felt unshakable. But even in those joyful moments, I tried to balance boundaries. I wanted Alex to grow into a strong, independent man, capable of standing on his own 2 feet. Perhaps I was too engrossed in giving him everything I could, a warm home, unwavering support, and unyielding belief in his potential. I didn't notice the changes that began to creep in, subtle shadows darkening the edges of our sunny existence. When Amanda came into our lives, everything shifted and yet remained almost imperceptible at first. Her laughter was bright, but it had a sharp edge. She fawned over Alex, her gaze tending to him with an intensity that unsettled me, if only just a little. I welcomed her to our family with open arms, determined to forge a bond and extend the love I had always given. As she settled in, I made every effort to include her, to let her know that together we could build a life around Alex that would be brighter. But Amanda had her own agenda. I began to notice tiny dismissals. Her eyes would roll when I shared parenting advice. Her voice would take on a tone that felt patronizing when I offered to assist with dinner. At first, I brushed these moments off. After all, I was happy that Alex had found someone he loved. Yet, the warmth of my kitchen soon felt unfamiliar. The laughter strained, and my heart began to feel the flickers of doubt. Those initial signs of condescension were like the first crisp winds of fall, warning me that change was coming. I felt unmoored, thrown off balance as I realized my role in my son's life was shifting right before my eyes, even as I clung to the years we had shared. The very foundation of the family I had fought so hard to build began to feel precarious, but I dismissed it, convincing myself that it was simply a phase, that love would bridge any distance. Yet, it became painfully clear that the tighter I held onto Alex, the more Amanda seemed to push me away. And with every meal I prepared, every festive dinner I lovingly organized, I sank deeper into the shadows of my own home, wondering if my sacrifices would ever truly be valued again. When Alex introduced Amanda, standing proud beside her, like a trophy he had just won, I felt an instinctual wave of warmth wash over me, though tempered by an inexplicable unease. Her smile was radiantly beautiful, eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. I clapped my hands together, welcoming her into our home as if she were the missing piece of our family puzzle. However, as the initial excitement settled, I found myself peering through the veil of that smiling facade, searching for the woman beneath. Amanda quickly took charge of family gatherings, determining the seating arrangements at the table and the menu for dinners. I thought of her actions as excitement and newfound energy, yet every small decision felt like a victory for her and a quiet loss for me. I attempted to navigate this new territory, reminding myself that the tides of motherhood often shift. I wanted to embrace her while embracing the new roles that came along with her presence. But did I notice the way her laughter hardened when I engaged with Alex? How quickly her smile dissolved into a chilly expression that whispered of superiority. During one family dinner, as I struggled to find the right words to share a fond memory about Alex's childhood, Amanda cut in. "Oh, weren't you the one who couldn't bake a cake to save your life?" My hands froze mid-action, serving the roasted chicken I had prepared with great care. What had been intended as a nostalgic trip down memory lane evaporated. The laughter around the table twisted into a series of uncomfortable chuckles. A heavy silence followed her words, and I felt every gaze shift away from me, as if I were suddenly invisible. Alex, blissfully unaware, beamed at Amanda. "Mom's cakes taste like love, even if they don't rise," he said with a light-hearted chuckle. I managed a smile, retreating into myself as Amanda's laughter rang hollow in my ears. I felt the walls of my home constricting me tighter, the atmosphere tainted by her subtle yet cruel jabs. Over time, those comments multiplied, like weeds rapidly choking a flower long neglected. Amanda peppered them into our interactions with the alarming ease of a practiced performer. "Helen, don't you think the children would prefer something more modern for their birthdays?" she remarked one afternoon, scoffing lightly as I laid out plates of homemade cookies for a family gathering. The biting attention to my efforts slowly carved deeper into my confidence, unnoticed by those around me. I wanted to scream, to voice the hurt that swelled within my chest, but I remained paralyzed by silent uncertainty. I thought back to the countless hours spent nurturing my son, the love ingrained in every meal, every hug. Why did Amanda get to dictate my worth based on a few sarcastic quips? Whenever I looked across the table during dinner, I noticed Amanda's careful glances darting toward me, assessing, evaluating, measuring. My heart sank deeper each time she redirected conversation away from me to craft her own narrative. It became painfully obvious that my voice had been muffled, drowned out by the very person I hoped to include and support. Still, I wore a mask of acceptance in front of my family, choosing to cling to the belief that Amanda's attitude stemmed from insecurity or perhaps her own upbringing. After all, I wanted so desperately to build a bridge rather than a divide, but every smile I forced into existence cracked the image of the harmonious family I envisioned, one filled with laughter, support, and love. The weight of Amanda's disdain cultivated quiet storms of anxiety. I realized she had begun to write the story of our family, uprooting the narrative I believed I had scripted. I felt myself withdrawing into a tight consensual shell, suffocated by my own unwillingness to confront what was clearly wrong. The fork in our domestic road appeared more pronounced, yet I remained unsure of which direction to take. Yet unmistakably, as I continued to absorb Amanda's sharp remarks, I knew I needed to reclaim my role, my identity as Alex's mother. I just had to find the right moment, the right words, to dissolve the gilded facade Amanda had erected around my family. That quest began silently, tucked away within my thoughts, ignited by the inner conflict churning beneath the surface of every interactions, feeding the longing I felt to be seen again, to have my contributions valued. I brushed away thoughts of fate, preparing to carve my own path in a household where the lines between family, and adversary began to blur more each day. Little did I know, the struggle for recognition would only become more intense, ringing loudly in the air as our family dynamic twisted further into a web of conflicting loyalties. As the weeks melted into months, Amanda's presence became a storm cloud that cast shadows over my heart, darkening the sunny home I once cherished. With every family gathering, I tried to reach out, to forge connections, but my efforts were met with thinly veiled humiliations that cut deeper than I cared to admit. Delicately, I would set the dining table, arranging Alex's favorite dishes, a heartwarming nod to our bond, but Amanda would sweep into the room like a whirlwind, rearranging everything to her liking, transforming my carefully curated scene into a reflection of her tastes. Are we really serving those ancient family recipes? The kids could use something fun. How about pizza or tacos? Her laughter rang out, seemingly innocent, but it pierced through my heart. I forced myself to smile, trying to brush it off as if it were just one of her quirks. But each laugh was yet another dagger that chipped away at my sense of self-worth. Dinner transformed into a battlefield, not the nurturing retreat it once was. Amanda's critiques came with razor-sharp precision, her condescension cloaked in false kindness. "If you just added a pinch of salt here, it wouldn't taste so bland," she'd say, laughter bubbling up from those around us. I would smile, trying to maintain the facade of a dutiful mother-in-law who accepts all with grace, but inside, I cringed, feeling my essence slip away little by little. In these interactions, I felt invisible, a painful kind of invisibility that pressed down on my chest, squeezing the air from my lungs. I recalled the warmth of our family gatherings filled with laughter and shared stories, now interrupted by snide comments and dismissive gestures. The comfort of home morphed into a stage where Amanda crafted her narrative while I dwindled in the shadows, withdrawing more each day into the recesses of my mind. Every glance across the table revealed Amanda's calculating gaze, always assessing, redirecting conversations to highlight her supremacy. My heart would race, and I grappled with the desperate urge to reach out to Alex for support. Yet, whenever I opened my mouth, the words felt trapped. I feared that if I spoke, I might break the fragile dynamic we had, so I endured. It was as if I had become a prisoner in a home I had once built with love and care. One fateful evening, amidst the chaos of a birthday celebration, Amanda stood to offer a toast. A hush settled over the room as everyone shifted their attention. "Let's raise a glass to those who share their wisdom with the rest of us," she declared, her gaze locking onto me with an intensity that felt like an accusation. Wisdom, after all, comes with age, just like those outdated recipes you adore. Laughter erupted, and I felt the heat rush to my face, flooding me with humiliation. My hand trembled slightly as I raised my glass, a forced smile plastered on my face. I scanned the room, searching for Alex's eyes, yearning for a sign of support, but he was caught in the merriment, untouched by the emotional sting I felt. As the laughter faded, a heavy silence filled the air, pushing at my heart. I began to retreat further into myself, spiraling into despair over the sharpened edges of my existence. Each joke, each sly remark pushed me to question my place, my worth, and whether my years of nurturing Alex had any value left in this new family dynamic that had been rewritten. The loneliness weighed heavily upon me, and the longing to reclaim my voice swirled inside like a storm ready to burst free. That night, I found myself retreating to the quiet of my room, encircled by silent photographs, memories of laughter and warmth. I closed my eyes and let the tears fall. Hidden beneath this turmoil was a realization gathering momentum. I had to confront this situation before it consumed me entirely. I reflected on my years, as Alex's mother, the sacrifices made, the love poured into every moment of our lives together. Each recollection kindled a flicker of resolve deep within me. I could not allow Amanda to dictate my worth any longer. It was time to take a stand. The air shifted as I began to strategize, turning my inner turmoil into determination. My voice had been silenced, but now I felt the stirrings of resistance. There would come a moment when I would confront Amanda, not in anger or bitterness, but with the dignity and strength I had cultivated silently over the years. The storm was brewing not just within me, but in the fabric of our family environment. I could feel the air thick with tension, waiting to be released. It was a time for action, and while I remained uncertain of the outcome, I knew I had to let the wind of change blow through my life. I welcomed the awakening of my spirit, ready to reclaim what I had lost. That was my newfound purpose. My journey to redefine the boundaries of respect and love had just begun. The moment was approaching where I would break free from Amanda's shadow, reassert my identity as Alex's mother, and steer my family back toward the path of connection. I was ready to reclaim my place, and this time I would not be muted. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the rooms of my home. The familiar scenery offered little comfort now. My heart thudded with resolve but threadbare nerves as I stepped into a new dawn, ready to reclaim my voice amidst Amanda's relentless chatter. However, before I could confront her, I knew I needed to gather information, an armory of knowledge that would fortify my stance when the time came. I decided to keep a low profile during our next family gathering, absorbing the dynamics around me like a sponge. I listened intently, observing the subtle cues that had long gone unnoticed. Whenever Amanda sat at the table, her tone of voice would change, settling into a condescending rhythm whenever we discussed family matters. It was chilling, an armor she wore to suppress not just me, but anyone who dared to enter her line of scrutiny. The kitchen, once a hub of laughter, became my base for observational reconnaissance. Smells of simmering sauces and freshly baked bread would mingle with elusive whispers, snippets of conversations floating through the cracks of my awareness. I turned my back to the simmering pots, pretending to focus on dinner preparations while actually tuning into the various exchanges occurring around me. My heart ached a little less as I became an invisible observer rather than a participant entangled in Amanda's web of derision. The family, often caught up in playful banter and fond reminiscences, largely swayed by her charms, failed to see the tight coil of tension she spread beneath their comfort. I watched Alex laugh at her jokes, shaking his head in admiration. It twisted in my gut, feeling uncharacteristic and unsettling. It's as if I were bidding farewell to the son I raised amid warmth, integrity, and love. I began to catalog the moments where Amanda attempted to undermine my role. A disturbing trend emerged, where she employed the scatter of small comments and calculated dismissals to chip away at my status in our family. "Helen, you're such a great cook, but don't you think these cupcakes might need a little more pizzazz?" Or, "Sure, we can watch that old movie, but I bet the kids would prefer something animated." Each remark felt like a splash of cold water, reminding me how deftly she maneuvered to gather attention, even as I craved a mere moment of recognition. It wasn't long before I sought the wisdom of my closest friends. I enlisted my confidant, Martha, who had held a mirror to my struggles even before I had fully recognized my plight. Over steaming cups of chamomile tea, I shared my observations, revealing how Amanda's insidious tactics had gradually chipped away at my identity. Martha listened intently, her brow furrowed, validating my feelings before offering constructive insights. Sometimes it's not about arguing head on. It's about building a narrative that cannot be ignored, she said wisely, her eyes almost sparkling with encouragement. You've raised Alex. You have decades of shared memories and experiences. When the time is right, invoke those memories. Let Amanda know that her stories can never erase yours. Those conversations ignited a fire within me. Yet, as I plotted to reclaim my narrative, I still felt apprehensive about the confrontation that lay ahead. My heart danced with anticipation, but shivered at the uncertainty of executing a well-structured plan amid chaos. I continued my investigations, gathering vital information that would serve me well when the day of reckoning arrived. I started to look deeper into Amanda's demeanor, watching her interaction patterns with not just Alex, but with everyone in the family. It became evident how she exerted her dominance with subtle gestures, the way she would place her hand protectively on Alex's shoulder while disregarding my opinions, the way she wrapped her appraising eyes around visiting relatives, ensuring their attention remained solely on her. During one particularly heartbreaking exchange, Amanda invited me to assist her with a family project, a charity event we were all supposed to engage in, while claiming she wanted my experience. It felt less like an invitation and more like a veiled attempt to consistently undermine my contributions. As we worked side by side, I suppressed the burning desire to shout that I was still relevant, still had a vital part to play in our lives. "Could you arrange the flowers over there?" Amanda suggested offhandedly, gesturing toward the unused corner of the room. I stood frozen for a moment. My heart raced with hurt, but I bit my tongue, convinced that stepping back would allow me to preserve energy for a more decisive confrontation ahead. As the weeks unfolded, I kept putting pieces together, observing and planning my response. I relied on the wisdom of those closest to me, the gentle nudges that encouraged me to embrace the narrative of love I had built throughout the years. I returned again and again to the mantra I was now familiar with. They can mute me at the table, never in my heart. Despite Amanda's efforts to drown me out, her words never touched the depths of my remaining memories. I gathered small fragments of conversations, stashed them away like hidden treasures. Documenting slights became a quiet ritual, one that fortified my readiness for when I would finally confront the tempest of our dynamics. It was in these quiet moments, tucked in under the constant ebb and flow of family life, that I felt tinges of anticipation swelling and shifting within. My heart beat louder with every recollection of love shared, every sacrifice made, and every moment of nurturing that felt diminished. This was not just a battle for recognition. It was a reclamation of my identity, of my voice as a mother. And soon I would have my chance, armed with insights, fortified by the love of friends, and resolute in my journey to redefine my role within our family. The time was coming. I could feel the stirrings of change beneath the calm surface. The reckoning was approaching, and I would be ready. I could sense the currents of tension thickening in our home. Family gatherings had morphed into a delicate dance of careful movements and unspoken words. Each moment now held more weight, swirling with the unacknowledged conflict lingering beneath the surface. My resolve solidified with the knowledge that the confrontation with Amanda would not simply happen. It had to be orchestrated. The tipping point arrived one Friday evening when the house was abuzz with preparations for a small family gathering meant to celebrate Alex's recent promotion at work. The air was fragrant with the aroma of my best dishes, nostalgic and warm, infused with memories of years gone by. I had poured love into every detail. The table was filled with family favorites, lamb stew, roasted vegetables, and made from scratch apple pie. My heart reverberated with anticipation and a sense of deep-rooted purpose. This time, I wouldn't let Amanda's snarky comments overshadow my presence. As guests drifted in, I greeted everyone with warm embraces, showered Alex with pride, and followed the ebb and flow of conversation. Laughter filled the air, echoing warmly against my heart. But then I felt it. Amanda arrived, her bright smile a little too perfect, like a harbinger of the impending storms. The light in the room dimmed slightly as she approached, and a flicker of unease latched onto my chest. I'm so glad everyone came, especially to celebrate Alex's success. But really, Alex, can't you just be a little more adventurous next time with your career? I mean, that's all your mother ever wanted, right? Her offhand remark hung in the air like a sword, threatening to cut through the warmth of the moment. It seemed strategic, a calculated maneuver designed to draw attention away from me and steer it toward her. My heart raced, but I stayed grounded, breathing deeply through the tightness that threatened to choke me. I wouldn't let her diminish the joy of this day. It was time to stitch together my own narrative, to carve out my position without being swept away. Actually, Amanda, I started, my voice steady despite the thumping of my heart, I believe Alex made choices that align with his passions and interests. He didn't take this promotion lightly. I felt Alex's eyes shift toward me, searching, perhaps longing for the validation he had often overlooked. She pressed her lips together, clearly not expecting my response. "Oh, I know that, Helen," she said, attempting to regain her footing. "But we all know you've always had those grand ideas of your own. Who knows? Maybe some of that ambition rubbed off on him." My resolve hardened. I wanted to scream that my ambition had never been the problem, that it had been my silence that allowed her to weave her narrative. "Maybe you're right, Amanda," I said, maintaining my composure. "But there's something to be said for patience and nurturing a dream, something that often takes longer than we anticipate." My eyes locked with Alex's, searching for any glimmer of understanding, any recognition of the significance of my words. There was a brief silence as though the room held its breath. Then, like the calm before the storm, the tension shifted. This was no longer a mere exchange. It felt like the beginning of a confrontation fueled by years of unspoken frustrations. Amanda's eyes narrowed, and I could sense the weight of her response coiling just beneath the surface. "You mean like how you waited to teach him your outdated recipes until I came along?" She shot back, a thin smile spreading across her face. It felt like a jab pulled from a dark corner, pitted with hostility. Those words ignited a flame of determination deep within me. The family gathered around the debate as if sensing the undercurrents of tension that rippled beneath the surface. "Let's not forget the love and care behind those recipes, Amanda," I said softly, yet firmly. "They carry the essence of tradition and family, something you never experienced. They connect us. Slow and steady growth does wonders, just like raising a child." My words hung in the air, thick with weight and significance. I could see Alex flinching, caught in the turmoil of loyalty to his wife while yearning for the comfort of my support. The realization crashed over me. Our conversation was more than about recipes or careers. This was about identity, the crux of my struggle to reclaim my position in this family. "Perhaps I respect my roots more than you'd like to admit," I added, my voice steady, even as I felt the tension flickering like electricity between us. "And Alex knows that too. This dinner is a celebration of him, after all. I've been a part of his journey in ways you can never comprehend." A ripple of silence washed over the space, punctuated by tentative exchanges of glances. I could see the surprise etched across the faces of our family, some unsure of what to do next. It was the opening I needed, a crack in her facade. As Amanda opened her mouth, ready to retaliate, I held up my hand, my heart racing, but the words flowing with newfound clarity. No, Amanda, this is my moment to speak. I've allowed you to undermine my role for too long. My love for Alex is deep-rooted, forged in years of sacrifice and sleepless nights. I noticed a flicker of apprehension in Amanda's eyes, and it only bolstered my standing. I will not have you write my family's narrative any longer. The weight of my own realization surged forth, unrelenting, propelling me toward my reclaiming crescendo. They can mute me at the table, never in my heart. That will never change. The room fell utterly still. A deafening silence enveloped us, holding at bay the unfurling chaos that seemed inevitable. I felt Alex inching closer to me, drawn by my honesty. I saw the flicker of understanding spark within him at last. Amanda stepped back, registering that the tables had turned. Her carefully spun web of manipulation now appeared frayed, and the realization dawned that it had been me all along, holding the threads of our family tightly in my embrace. In that moment, I knew the tides had shifted, and with my vulnerability came strength. The confrontation had indeed opened the floodgates, but instead of turmoil, I saw a glimmer of hope. Perhaps this was the beginning of a new chapter, where I could be both mother and confidant, where the legacy of love I had cultivated would no longer be extinguished by someone else's need for control. I would stand firm amid the wind of change, ready to face whatever Amanda's next move would be. But deep down, I felt the resolve solidifying within me. With hearts pounding, we had opened a door, one that now blazed with newfound respect and understanding. The reckoning was here, and I was prepared. I had reclaimed my voice. Now the family had to listen. The time for silence was finally over. The tension hung thickly in the air, a taut wire brimming with pent-up emotions. Each face in the room reflected a spectrum of disbelief and curiosity, grappling with the sudden shift in dynamics. Amanda's icy exterior, cloaked in sweet falseness, began to show signs of cracking, revealing the uncertainty swirling beneath her confident facade. "Hell!" she started, but I interrupted, my heart pounding with the urgency to validate my presence. "No, Amanda, this is my moment," I asserted, keeping my voice steady. "I've allowed you to undermine my role for too long. My love for Alex is deep-rooted, forged in years of sacrifice and sleepless nights. I need you to recognize that." I could sense the shift in the room as my words settled heavy in the air. My gaze shifted to Alex, searching for reassurance that my stance was not in vain. His eyes met mine, and in that instant, I caught a glimpse of understanding flickering behind them. I saw him fully. For the first time, he was acknowledging the years of effort behind me, the unwavering love that had nourished his growth. Amanda's lips pursed into a thin line, panic glimmering in her eyes as the room fell utterly still. "This isn't about you, Helen," she countered tightly, yet the irritation creeping into her voice revealed the cracks in her control. "It's about celebrating Alex and his achievements, Sio. But this is also about the love that nurtured him to get there. You can't diminish the importance of my sacrifices by pretending they don't exist." My voice trembled slightly. I fought to maintain my dignity as the emotion coursed through me. "I've been with him every step of the way. I want you to see that." A flicker of apprehension flashed across Amanda's face, bolstering my confidence. Against the backdrop of her carefully spun web of manipulation, my words cut through like a ray of sunlight breaking through the fog. "And," I continued, my tone sharpening with clarity, "you need to understand that you don't have to compete with me. This is not a duel for the spotlight. Our love has the capacity to expand, to include everyone in this family, including you." As I said this, I caught sight of Alex shifting his stance, He moved closer, an unspoken alliance forming between us. "Mom, you're right," he said slowly, searching for the right words. "I've always celebrated my achievements, but I realize I haven't expressed gratitude for the foundation you built beneath me." My heart filled with warmth, yet Amanda's expression twisted. I could sense her mounting frustration, ready to spring back into defensive mode. "Alex, don't let her manipulate you. This is just about her trying to take the center stage again." She spat, eyes narrowing as she grasped for control. "Don't you see?" I countered, urgency lacing my voice. "I'm not trying to steal the spotlight. I'm trying to show you that celebrating each other doesn't target anyone, but strengthens us all. Our family will only flourish with understanding and respect for everyone's position." Around us, shared gazes murmured support for my plea, and I sensed the tide shifting in my favor. Alex looked taken aback, surprised and perhaps relieved to hear his mother laying bare the struggles he had long dismissed. "Mom," he said, determination growing in his tone, "I want to acknowledge everything you've done. You deserve that recognition. Mom, that is what this family should be about." The words hung in the air, electric and alive. I could feel Amanda's defenses waver. They began to crumble under the weight of the understanding that was finally emerging from the fog of her threats. "This isn't an attack," I pressed gently. "It's an invitation, a way to heal." With each syllable, I felt the fear of being drowned out receding. I knew this was the moment when I had to hold my ground or risk losing the chance to redefine our family narrative. Amanda, still fuming, shifted her weight, flustered. "What makes you think you're entitled to rewrite the rules?" "Because family is built on love and understanding, Amanda, not control," I replied, finding my footing. "You have a choice. You can be a part of this new chapter, or you can let your pride keep you isolated." She hesitated, her bravado faltering as she realized she was faced not with just me, but the growing support around us. Every pair of eyes in the room shifted to her, silently demanding connection rather than disconnection. The tension between us was palpable, but I sensed it also held the opportunity for growth. "Perhaps," I said softly, "if you allowed yourself to join us, you might find that there's more grace in share than in monopolizing." The moment hovered, suspended in silence, her expression softening slightly as the realization washed over her, the chance for kinship. The air within the room felt electric, imbued with the potential for transformation. Alex stood solidly beside me, the realization settling upon him that the acknowledgement he brought forward could indeed bridge the gap between us all. Together, we can craft a family narrative rooted in love, where everyone's story matters, I articulated, each word ripe with hope. "You don't have to do this alone, Amanda. If you're willing, we can be united rather than divided." I watched the wheels churn in her mind. There was hesitation, yes, but also contemplation flickering across her face. The battle was no longer solely between us. I sensed the potential for healing unfolding, revealing the strength of our collective ties. The tension in her shoulders faded slightly, and I saw something shift. "I want us to get along," she finally spoke, an edge of reluctance in her voice. "I'll try if you can accept me for who I am." "Absolutely," I urged, earnestness coding every word. "It doesn't mean we'll always agree, but we can build a path toward understanding, one brick at a time." That moment, the flicker of mutual acknowledgement felt monumental. For the first time, it seemed like I could embrace my role not with fear, but as a nurturing presence in our family story. The foundation was beginning to shift beneath us, the possibility of a kindred bond unfurling slowly. As the silence hung between us, fragile yet unbreakable, I could feel the churning energy settling. mapping out the road ahead. Together, we would step into the light of transformation, reclaiming our strength and cherishing the love that has always threaded us together. The time for silence was finally over, and we were ready to embrace the journey of healing and connection that lay before us. The electric silence was pregnant with unspoken promises as I searched Amanda's gaze, brimming with caution and urgency. I needed to know if this was a genuine shift or a temporary reprieve. Was the foundation we were beginning to build resilient enough to withstand future storms? "Let's take a step back and reflect," I said slowly, hopeful yet pragmatic. The world outside often complicates our intentions. We are family. Let's forget the expectations for just a moment. What do we truly desire for ourselves, for Alex, for each other? Next to me, Alex shifted slightly, his unease palpable, but his eyes were resolute, filled with an earnestness I had not seen before. It gave me hope, raising expectations from hope to conviction. Amanda studied my expression, wary yet something warmed in her demeanor, as the edges of her determination softened. "I don't want things to be tense between us, Helen, but it's difficult. I've spent a lot of time feeling like I needed to guard what I have with Alex. You know what I mean?" "I understand, Amanda," I replied, taking a step closer, feeling the air between us crackle with new energy. We all need to feel secure in our roles, in our relationships. It's important to redefine these spaces, to emphasize that no one is seeking to erase another's role. As I spoke, I could see the confusion etched into her features begin to lift, replaced with the start of comprehension. Perhaps the threads binding us in conflict were starting to fray, leaving room for something new, a more authentic connection. "Maybe we should share our concerns, lay everything out in the open. I need to hear your fears," I suggested gently, "and I'm willing to share mine." A flicker of vulnerability crossed Amanda's face before she turned her gaze to the floor, deep in thought. "I'm scared of losing Alex's affection, Helen. I've felt left in the shadows, and no one likes to be sidelined when it comes to love. Love should never be a finite resource," I encouraged, my heart resonating with sincerity. "We can be honest and flourish through transparency. Let's invite trust into our relationship." With guarded anticipation, I watched her process my words. I had turned a corner. Now was the time to cement this emerging partnership. "I am here for him, always," I continued, speaking in both strength and tenderness. "But I can't do it alone. I need your help, too, to ensure we are moving in the same direction, together." As it dawned on her, a light breathing undercurrents settled in the room. The air shifted, filled with potential, as it sank in that this wasn't merely about confrontation anymore, but co-creating a shared experience. "I want to try," Amanda replied, her voice steadier now, laced with resolve. "Perhaps we both need to let go of the past, to forgive, if we can." Her eyes locked with mine, and in that instant, it felt like a pact had been formed, quietly yet unmistakably. "Yes," I breathed, the weight of burdens lifting. "If we can stay curious and understanding, maybe we can craft a legacy for Alex, one rooted in love and collaboration." I reached for her hand, feeling the warmth of a connection building between us. Alex watched intently, realization dawning in his expression. The bond between Amanda and me wasn't merely a collusion, but a pathway forward. "Do you see this?" he asked, glancing back and forth between us. "This is the love that I've always wanted for our family." "Yes," I exclaimed, my spirits rising. "Let's use our strengths together. Let's lift one another up rather than pushing each other away." The group's energy surged, invigorated by this new direction, familial ties beckoning to strengthen. As our circle began to align, the previous disputes receded like a tide, revealing a foundation rich with shared goals and ambitions. I felt Amanda's fingers intertwine with mine, a timid but tangible acknowledgement of our newfound partnership. "I can see how this can work," she whispered, as uncertainty gave way to hope. "That's all we need," I said, my heart full. "One step at a time. Together, let's clear the path and make room for love and support where every voice can be heard." In tandem, we embraced the moment. Our family's focus was shifting, and the decision to move forward together felt more pressing than ever. The very air in the room seemed to shimmer with a renewed energy. Uncertainty began to lose its grip, replaced by an even stronger sense of trust, a chance to usher in a legacy of understanding. As each heartbeat resonated with hope, the future stretched open before us like a sprawling horizon, inviting exploration and connection. In that space with Alex and Amanda, the time for silence had truly came to an end. The stage was set for a future built on resilience, love, and shared stories as we joined hands, standing ready to confront whatever lay ahead together.